Did Donald Trump actually win his little standoff with Fox News? Well, the numbers are in, and certainly so are the opinions. We'll hash it all out. Then Pentagon cuts, they are coming. This at the same time the military brass is saying our ISIS strategy isn't working, and we've got an Iraq war vet and a military analyst here to break it down. Also, Pat Lynch, the controversial head of the PBA, he sits down with Dominic Carter. We'll have that conversation coming up as well. Good evening and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. Without Trump, the rating slid. Last night was the second lowest rated GOP debate so far, and one would have thought it would have gotten some of the biggest numbers, just as we said a few days from the Iowa caucuses. The good? 12.5 million people watched. That makes it, as I said, the second highest telecast in Fox News history. The first debate was number one when twice as many people tuned in. But the Fox debate did give the other Republican candidates a chance to slam to Donald and also take aim at the other frontrunner, one Ted Cruz. With Donald Trump boycotting the debate, the new candidate at center stage was under fire.
I would note that the last four questions have been: Rand, please attack Ted. Marco, please attack Ted. Chris, please attack Ted. Jeb, please attack Ted. Let me just say this.
It is a debate, sir.
Well, no, gosh, if you guys ask one more mean question, I may have to leave the stage.
After a strong start for Ted Cruz,
everyone on this stage is stupid, fat, and ugly. Now that we've gotten the Donald Trump portion out of the way.
The night got rough. That is the assessment of Cruz by Iowa's biggest paper, the Des Moines Register.
I don't think Ted can have it both ways.
Meanwhile, just a few miles away, the national frontrunner held his own event.
I didn't want to be here, I have to be honest.
And he isn't even here in Iowa anymore. The only Republican candidate to leave the state today, campaigning now in New Hampshire. His absence, a boon for Marco Rubio last night.
Don't worry, I'm not leaving the stage no matter what you ask me.
And with that, let's bring in our panel. Scott Vanderhoff, former 5-term Republican Rockland County exec. Scott Levinson, president of the Advance Group. Dominic Carter, political journalist and author. And Andrew Whitman, our senior political correspondent. Some way, somehow, Scott, Trump actually came out better, I think, at the end of the night than he did going into it. And he managed to skip the food fight and weaken, arguably, the chief opponent he has, and won Ted Cruz in the process.
He won the debate. I mean, he really did. I mean, in many ways.
You can't make this stuff up, right?
No, he can never do it again. I mean, it's not like you can do it a second time.
Never say
but
never, right?
But he did it this time, and you know, I mean, the vets organizations, I don't know if they really got their money or got either money. That's a whole other story. Yeah. All right, but the one interesting thing I thought was it probably was the most policy-oriented debate so far. It didn't have that Barker quality or that, you know, that showmanship. And I think it's really unfortunate that more people perhaps didn't see it, although I did fall asleep about halfway.
I was about to say, who are you kidding? Yeah, you didn't make it the toe. Andrew, so they say the winner out of it, probably Marco Rubio. He looked best of the guys on the stage, and Cruz, with unanimity, was the loser last night. If you're in Iowa and you're not in New York or Chicago watching the thing, is that the same answer?
I think it probably is, and I think Rubio might get a bump come Monday when we get the results from the caucus. He might actually be a viable, have a viable chance to finish third or maybe even second in Iowa, depending on how everything works out. And if he does that, he's in fantastic shape moving forward into New Hampshire and even beyond. Look, Trump was going to be the guy in the barrel last night, and it was, whether he intended this or not, and I'm guessing Dominic will say that he did intend this, he got himself out of being the bullseye, and now Ted Cruz is the guy who he's running neck and neck with. It was brilliant tactically for Trump, because now the guy who he was running neck and neck with, he's the one who took all the arrows.
He also won not just what happened in the debate, but what happened before the debate and what's happening after. We're all doing post-debate analysis, talking about whether Trump made the right decision. We spent days talking about whether he was making the right decision before the debate.
Listen, do you think, I know Dominic always says you sleep on Trump, you're underestimating the man, and I'll give him some of it's room true. I think some of this stuff is dumb luck. I really think that he was so tweaked by that letter where Fox embarrassed him publicly. I think he was posturing he was going to go, and then all of a sudden he said, no, you know what, now I'm not going. I'm going to take my toys and I'm going to stay home. I think it was that, apparently people close to him, the day of, he was thinking of going. You don't think so?
I mean, do I think they may have considered, is there a big play to show up last minute? Maybe they considered it, but to think he was just winging this and this wasn't a thought-out
The
strategy.
whole
and
thing
plan?
he's winging.
Absolutely not.
Richard, you guys can opt not to believe me, but Trump is not winging anything. He's a master showman. He's smart in terms of almost street savvy smart. I'm not talking about in the world of academic. Listen, he knows that he's bigger than Fox News right now. So considering that he's bigger than Fox News, or you want to act cute with me, I won't be there. And look at what happened. Look at what happened. Do you think the next time Fox is going to stand up to him, or do you think behind closed door they will cave to every demand that he has?
So, and I think we'll have another opportunity for this. You believe, we'll have a bet right now, the next Fox debate, that Megyn Kelly will not be on the panel. Because he'll insist on it.
If Trump, he may not have to publicly insist. There are ways to do these things behind closed doors.
So I asked you the question. Will she
Answering
be
the
on the
question,
panel as a moderator?
If he's still the front runner, running the way that he is, there's absolutely no way she'll even be on the panel, period.
Unless they make nice. Unless they make up.
He's not going to make nice.
Unless Fox pays the $5 million that Trump wanted them to pay to get on.
Ransom?
Yeah, it's called that. How can you? I mean, that's good to the issue of strategy. Had Fox paid the $5 million ransom, would he have gone on? It would have. He probably would have said, "No, thanks anyway." That makes $11 million we just made.
Richard, you think I'm drinking this Trump water? But it's brilliant. That's what Charlie Rangel accused me of with Giuliani before. It's brilliant what he did. I'm not going to show. I'm going to put you in your place, and you're going to stay in your place. And oh, by the way, I'm going to expose this lightweight and let him be the lead going into the debate. And look at how Ted Cruz did less than 72 hours before caucus.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Andrew. What I can't figure out is why does Santorum and Huckabee show up?
That was the other thing for me. They look like props.
They just need attention. They weren't getting it from the undercard.
Yeah, they didn't get it from the undercard. Whatever they said, no one listened to it anyway. So maybe they just wanted their face.
Did you realize Santorum 4 years ago, he's saying to himself, I won Iowa 4 years ago. And look at me now. I'm relegated to a prop for Donald Trump.
Yeah.
What has happened in this country?
It's remarkable.
And Huckabee 8 years ago won it. And those two guys are appendages, and they say thank you. All right. Clearly, it seems, if this matters anymore, that either it's Rubio, Bush, but after New Hampshire, somebody's going away. Somebody's going to have to say, I can't keep this up anymore. The sense I'm getting is the big money is saying to Bush, something better happen by the end of New Hampshire. We may not stick around to South Carolina and Nevada. Do you think with pressure, with threats, with money pulling out, that we're going to have a coalition or some rallying around a single mainstream candidate, whether that's Kasich, less likely, but more likely, Bush, or most likely probably Rubio?
Yeah, I mean, I think
sooner than later.
I think after New Hampshire, before you get to the next round, I think some of these folks, and I'm afraid Jeb just doesn't come across as a presidential type. And, he has a look of fear, although I thought he did better without Trump being there.
Underperforming every step of the
Yeah,
way.
he does.
Comes into every
And he
room and
looks like
underperforms. There was so much, the expectations were set for him so high, and he just hasn't met them every time he's gone out the bat.
Let me ask you guys numbers, though, because if I'm Bush and I'm trying to convince my money to stay on board, or the same thing for Rubio and the rest here, to say, trust me, give me time. You look at the internals that they have on Trump, his negatives with women, his negatives with independents, his negatives with Latinos, unbelievably high, unprecedented high to have a chance to win a nomination, let alone a general election. Can't somebody lay out the math to say, I know this is playing in Iowa, I know this is playing in New Hampshire, we got no shot here, guys. Sooner or later, the fever's going to break, and they're going to come around.
We have our challenges. I'll have Scott figure this one out. The Republicans have some huge challenges on being able to do what they need to do in the primary.
No, but I'm saying what you do. You close the door, right? And you're talking to the donors who are getting antsy here. There are some math that you can lay out and say, this isn't me talking. This is the numbers here. I'm telling you, you're going to make a bad bet if you get behind the guy.
Smart money isn't necessarily controlling the party. That's the problem. They got a big break in the party when the voters are at is not necessarily where the smart money is.
But isn't the negatives
There's
the negatives?
a bit of a disconnect.
No, but isn't the negatives that at a certain point, I don't care who it is, people aren't going to hold their nose and vote for Trump. A lot of people. I mean, or Cruz for that matter. If it's one or the other, isn't there an argument for
a rational conversation in a Tea Party world?
But the Tea Party doesn't speak for the whole party, does it?
No, it doesn't. But he's got such a core of following, despite his comment about shooting people on Fifth Avenue. He's got this core that doesn't go away. But I'm not so sure that his staying away from the Iowa debate in the end is a winner for him. I mean, it won for all the reasons that Scott pointed out. But the people in Iowa, they want you there. They
and
want,
he wasn't
they
there
want
today
to
either.
participate.
No, I would say he won the debate, but leaving the state was a huge mistake.
And not going there today either. Yeah.
This right before, big mistake.
But also, if he loses in Iowa, he can now blame Fox and he can blame the debate
he
for doing that, and he can keep his whole "I'm a winner" mentality. As for your theory about the money, there's two problems with that. One, nobody really knows where Trump is going to finish in Iowa and New Hampshire. People have theories, but realistically, he could finish anywhere from 60% to 10%. Nobody really knows if people are actually going to pull the lever for him or caucus for him when they go.
Let's say he finishes 2-1 theoretically, second in Iowa and he wins New Hampshire. Then what?
Then I think you have to take him seriously as being a serious candidate. But that still leads you to the other part of the problem, which is there's no one collection of the money on the Republican side. You have big-pocketed donors giving to different campaigns, and they're not all going to abandon all of their horses. They're not going to abandon all of their horses all at once. And especially if the finish in New Hampshire is, Jeb 13, Rubio 12, Kasich 11, which is what one of the recent polls was. Why are any of those horses getting out of the race at that point?
They've never encountered something like this.
Huge enthusiasm gap. A huge enthusiasm gap on the R side. Who's going to play to this phenomenal marketer?
Well, back to Andrew's point, though, the issue of a contested convention, okay, when all this may be one that's being played out by the big donors, who want to play that game and get rid of Trump that way.
We've talked a lot about, and we've heard on the trail, a lot of social issues. Certainly immigration was prevalent last night. But sooner or later, our standing in the world and the military is going to be front and center on the public's minds, and maybe sooner than later. Military, as we know, is talking about where to cut in their budget and reducing troop strength. But as we know, the world is a very dangerous place, getting even more dangerous seemingly by the day. We're getting word now Pentagon might be pushing to have ground troop involvement against Syria. We're going to ask retired Army Captain Mike Lyons to weigh in on what's going on, not just in the Pentagon, but what might be going on pretty soon in Libya.